morning. Can you hear me? All right. My name's Henry Rondon, Assistant Executive Director at CAS CIAC. We welcome you all to our 2025 Women in Leadership Conference. We are very happy to have you all, and of course, our panelists are taking their time and, of course, going to share their talents. Again, this is a program that we've had for a few years now, and we really wanted to focus on giving young ladies here in the state of Connecticut who attend our high schools just a little bit of insight in terms of what they can do in terms of the future, looking into different careers, how you got there. Again, some of these young ladies here on stage are going to share with us. It's sometimes it can be from point A to B. It's a straight line. Sometimes it's not such a straight line, and there are different avenues to take. So therefore, our goal for us, for you today, is to take a look at what you're going to hear, hopefully incorporate that. It doesn't matter what year you are in school, but really incorporate that into your lives. Think about different habits, good habits that you can pick up and incorporate that. And we're really hoping that you have a great day. With that being said, I'd like to introduce our Director of Student Activities at CAS CIAC, Cherise Edukwe.
Thank you very much, Henry. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone feeling today? Awesome. We're so excited to have you all here today for a day of inspiration, learning, and empowerment. Thank you so much to our panelists who took the time to be here today to provide you all an opportunity just to be inspired and to learn from some of their paths in life. As you go on throughout your day today, you'll have breakout sessions after this. You'll hear from our panelists. You'll have breakout sessions, and I just encourage you to go out there and not be afraid to meet other people and to really take full charge of this experience today. So I just want to thank a few people before I turn it over to our MC for today, our moderator. I'd like to thank again our esteemed panelists for being here today. Also, I'd like to thank Berlin High School for providing us this space and just being extremely welcoming to us each and every year. Let's actually give Berlin High School a round of applause. Thank you. I'd like to thank our CAS CIAC staff, especially Kathy Prow, who helped to put this all together and to get you all in your breakout sessions, and also Aaron Gorino, who is in charge of all of the graphics and everything that you see here today. And finally, I just want to thank all of the advisors, your teachers, your advisors, principals, whoever brought you here today. Thank your advisors for giving you this opportunity to be here today. So let's give your advisors a round of applause. All right, so without further ado, we'll get this started. But again, congratulations to you all for being here today, and please just make the best of today. And as Mr. Rondon mentioned earlier, the things that you learned today, the things that you take it back and spread it. Spread all of your knowledge, spread all of the leadership empowerment that you received today out back at your schools and your communities, and just continue to be the great leaders that you are. All right, so without further ado, I am very honored to present our moderator for today, Berlin High School senior, Emily Tessier.
Hi, yes, good morning. My name is Emily Tessier, and as said, I am a senior here at Berlin High School. So let's waste no more time. Let's jump right into it. So I'm going to turn to our panelists. Good morning, everyone. Your first question for today, tell us about yourself. What is your background, and what was your path to leadership?
Okay. This is on. All right. So, good morning. My name is Annabelle Diaz, and a little bit about myself. I grew up in Puerto Rico. in a rural farm, and my mom migrated over to the States in Connecticut trying to find her mother who left her at 8 years old. So my mom was an abandoned child. My mom left Puerto Rico in seek of asylum. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm gonna be really raw and vulnerable with you because my path to leadership was not linear. My path to leadership was a big zigzag, curvy line, you name it. It was messy, really, really messy. So my mom transitioned over with my brother and I with the clothes on our backs here to Connecticut. I lived in shelters. I lived in the projects in Hartford in the 90s when I was your age. It was tough. The gangs were really, really bad. I mean, we had the National Security, the National Guard, and we had what is it called, a curfew. So all of the teenagers by 9, 10 o'clock needed to be in their house because it was just really, really toxic. So from there, I went to a technical high school. Why? Because I did not believe in my mind that I was college material. I didn't deem myself smart enough. And I was the first one in my family to ever go to college. I ended up going to AI Prince Tech in Hartford, and I wanted to just be a cosmetology. I wanted to do nails, I wanted to do hair, and that's all I cared for. So yes, I did get my cosmetology and hairdressing license. I did not pursue that because of my counselor. My counselor was amazing. He's like, Annabelle, do you realize how smart you are? And I'm like, nope. He's like, you have so much potential. And I'm like, really? Well, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like, I have to go to the projects and like survive. Like, that was my reality. So he's like, try college out. So I went to Central Connecticut State University. I attended their EOP program, which is a program for students that have the potential, but I didn't make the requirements to go to college because I didn't put forth my best effort in high school. And I went there, and it just gave me a totally different world, and I had a mentor. So remember this, ladies, mentorship is gonna be a thread throughout this conference. And I went to Central, and I was like, wow, this is totally different. And I enjoyed it so much that I got my bachelor's in teaching. I was teaching in middle school in East Hartford for 10 years. Then from there, I saw some things that I was like, ooh, I don't know. I don't like some of the things I'm seeing in public education. And that's where I started to look at leadership a little bit different, and what does that look like for me? So if I wanted to be a change agent and I wanted to make things right for other kids, I said to myself, I need to be at the table. I need a seat at the table. And I did. I went to Central again for my master's. Then I went to Central again to pursue my O93 in my O92 in administration, and then I went to UConn for my O93, and then I pursued my doctoral degree. Where does that leave me now? I am a principal at Mosier School in Rocky Hill, and I love what I do. I feel like I am a steward of change. I am a servant leader. Based on my background and my upbringing, which was tough, I have been able to be a mentor for others when others have felt like I don't have the optimism, right? I have a fixed mindset. Like, I was able, through my journey, I was able to fix this mindset of, here I am living in poverty, right? I have nowhere to go. And people talk about the glass ceiling. Like, I broke that glass ceiling. I broke it. And I was able to change not only my trajectory, but the trajectory of my future generations within my family. Like, I have a daughter who works at CCMC. She's a cardio sonographer, and I have a son who just went to the Navy. He's in San Diego. So to be able to come from here to be in the high middle class and to change that trajectory for my family and be a leader and a change agent, not just for my family, but for the community I serve is something really, really powerful. I'm also on the Board of Ed in East Hartford. That is my community, and I try to be really active and engaged. And that's been my path and, my tenacity towards change and leadership. Thank you.
Good morning. Buenos dias. I also was born in Puerto Rico. I was raised in Puerto Rico until I was in 8th grade with I always call it a pit stop in St. Croix and St. Thomas. That's where I learned English. So I moved to Connecticut because my mother was recruited to be a teacher from Puerto Rico to New Haven, Connecticut. And I went there, I went to private school, K-8, in San Juan and the Virgin Islands. So public school was very foreign to me. And then I landed in Wilbercross High School, one of the largest high schools the largest high school in New Haven, in a city. Very different worlds. And I saw freedom, and I loved the freedom that that high school had. I lasted there 1 year. My parents then quickly said if we want myself and my brother and sister, if we want them to be successful, we need to get them in a better structured setting. So we moved to Branford, Connecticut, where there were only 2 Puerto Ricans in the school, myself and my brother. A school of 2,000 students. And that was the first time I really, it really dawned on me that I was different. In Puerto Rico, everybody's Puerto Rican. That's not a thing, right? And St. Croix and St. Thomas, I was in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. I didn't really have that self-awareness. And when I went to Branford High, people thought I was Italian because I'm very fair-skinned, and they had a way of thinking of what we look like. And that was the first time I was asked, "What are you?" Because they heard me speaking Spanish. And I said, "I'm a girl." "What do you mean, what am I?" I was not as fortunate as my co-panelist here to have a great guidance counselor or school counselor. She told me once I got to senior year, "Well, college is not for everybody. I think you should go to Stone Academy and get a secretarial degree, 6 weeks, and you'll be all set." And I told her, I said, "I don't think that's what my parents want for me." Again, unlike my co-panelists, I'm not a first-generation college student. My mother retired as an assistant superintendent. I come from an educated family. They're all in education. And so I said to the guidance counselor pointedly, "I don't think that's what parents want for me." Although I was enjoying not going to school, because I was the queen of the hall passes. I told my mother, and I had to actually go to my old high school, Wilbercross High School, to fill out my college paperwork, to get my transcripts together. And I had a guidance counselor there that remembered me as a 9th grader and helped me because Branford High said they're pretty much not going to waste their time since I'm not going to get into college. I went to EOP at Southern. The best thing that happened to me, and that changed my life. Yes, Southern. And then, because I had to live at home when I was at Southern, I wanted to experience that freedom again. So I transferred to Central, and I lived in the dorms, and from there, I wanted in my mind to be a traveling reporter, so I majored in communications. My path to leadership was a lot of roadblocks. That didn't work out for me, obviously, because I'm not a reporter. I got a job at a Spanish newspaper, and it went under maybe like the 2nd week in my job. And I was like, what am I going to do now? So I started substituting, and even though I swore I was not going to go in education because everybody in my family's in education, I just had folks that would look at me and say, "You're really good at this. Get your certification." So I got certified. I ended up as an elementary school teacher, and then in that school, the principal didn't have an assistant principal. So all the teachers had extra duties. So somehow my duties, I have no idea how, but somehow it became I was in charge of the budget. I was in charge of the math department, and I got all these different responsibilities, and I was very young. And I was like, do these people know they're trusting me with all this stuff? I mean, I'm gonna go home and watch TV and like not even worry about school for a minute. And then I had a great principal who said, go get your master's. So I did that. And the math supervisor, she tapped me on the shoulder. Mentors, definitely there were a lot of good mentors who said, you should definitely come join my department. So I went to central office and became a math coach. And then I wanted to try high school. So I left New Haven and became a high school teacher. And that principal said, why don't you finish your 6th year, which is what you do when you want to become a principal or an administrator. So I did that. I went back to Southern and got my 6-year degree. And within 2 years, I was an assistant principal. I was the youngest assistant principal at the time. I became an assistant principal at 28 years old. And so then I did that for 2 years in the tech system. So I was at Wilcox. So she would know exactly where that is because she went to AI Prince, so part of the tech system. And then I went back to New Haven because my superintendent said, we kind of raised you. You came here and we grew you, and we need your talents back in New Haven. So I came back to New Haven as an assistant principal, and I did that for 8 years. And then the tech system called me again and said, we want you to be a principal at Bullard Havens, which is in Bridgeport. And I did that for 2 years. Bullard Havens actually was like very life-changing for me. The kids, I loved the kids there. For the first time in I don't know how many years, that school scored 95% proficiency in, at the time, the CAPT test, which now you guys are SBAC, right? Or what do you guys do in high school? So that was an anomaly because their scores used to be 20, 30% proficiency. However, the staff did not like me that much because I was the only Hispanic staff member in a school that was all Hispanic and Black students. So except for the janitor and myself and the secretary, we were the 3 Puerto Ricans, the principal, the janitor, and the secretary. Think about that. Think about that setting. But it did remind me of my time at Branford High, and I think that shaped me to be able to handle that, that path and those challenges. And I went back, from there I went, where did I go there? From there I went to Greenwich, Connecticut. Very different. I wanted to see the other side of the world. So I worked in New Haven, I worked in Bridgeport, I worked in Meriden, and then I go to Greenwich where now I have all, like, the resources were unlimited. I did that for 5 years, and then I went and worked in Hartford. And Greenwich was not easy for me. Again, I was the only Hispanic actually in the administrative team. There was no other Hispanic. That's it. I had to really prove myself. And I always remember proving myself and advocating for students that looked like me. I had a board member. I was presenting the native AP class for Spanish speakers. And the board member said to me, these kids, they know Spanish. Why do they need that AP course? What's the point? I said, well, you have AP English. And that board member said, I never thought about it that way. Said, we all speak English, and we have several different AP classes in English. And it got passed. I stumped him. It got passed. So I did that for 5 years. I learned a lot in Greenwich of the have-nots and haves. And then I went to Hartford. I felt like I wasn't really making a big difference in Greenwich, and I wanted to go back to the inner city. I grew up in San Juan, Puerto Rico, in the city. I'm a city girl. That's where I belong. And then I did that for 3 years, an executive director, so I supervised principals there. And then I had a call from New Haven, said, we want you back. I'm like, it would be my third rodeo. Says, we need you back, we have a new superintendent, she really, remembers you. So my superintendent that recruited me was actually my teacher in EOP at Southern, way back when I was a freshman in college. And so I went and I went back to New Haven as an assistant superintendent, and here I am. Thank you.
Good morning. Every time I get a mic, I'm ready to sing, not talk. I do sing, but I'm not going to sing this morning. My name is Jody Hill Lilly. I am the commissioner at the Department of Children and Families, and it's DCF. And we are responsible for child protection when kids are abused and neglected, and we're also responsible for children's mental health. Anybody in the room even remotely interested in that field? Helping kids, helping others? Well, it's my job to convince you otherwise, because there's a whole administrative check that I'm going to tell you just a little bit about. But I was born and raised here in love Puerto Rico. I go at least twice a year, which is already, I've already been this year. Wish I was, I love the island so much. But I'm born and raised in Windsor, Connecticut. But I'm old. I may not look it, but I am. I was born in 1966.
That's not old.
That is not old.
I'm old. Look at everybody's like, wow, I'm 58 years old. And I'm 58 years old. And in 1966, Windsor looked very different than it does today. So I was often the only person of color in a class in Windsor back then. And, I was poor. We were poor growing up in Windsor, but I had access to great education. Not so much support, just in terms of being the best that I could be. In terms of having a good guidance counselor and all that kind of stuff. I really didn't have that. So I probably, to the school counselors in the room and those of you in school, push your people, because no one would ever thought that I'd end up where I am right now. I did okay. I was a good student, but not pushed to the next level. Anyway, I went to Southern Connecticut State University. Woo woo, got 2 degrees from Southern, both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and I started at DCF as a line social worker, going out in the field, helping kids. That's what I like to do. I love, 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 love kids. And I got a job at the state, really just helping kids who were in really tough situations, and I absolutely love that work. I was supposed to be a lawyer. I was supposed to do it for 2 years and then become a lawyer, and, but it's 37 years later, and I'm still there. I've had 1 job at DCF. I started as a social worker, and now I'm the commissioner. So it's a really interesting journey. Along the way, I've had about probably 7 or 8 promotions. Each one of them I said no to first. I never aspired to be in this position, but I always say, I'm a believer in faith, and I believe that the position was for me, and even though I didn't seek after leadership positions, but somehow I'm the commissioner of the Department of Children and Families and a national leader in child protective services. I actually am leaving to get on a plane in an hour to go to Seattle to go talk about the work that I do. I fly all over the country and other places talking about child protective services. But it wasn't something I guess that's the thing that I would say to you all, is that you never know who you can become, even if you don't. I don't know that I believed in myself in the way. I don't know that I believed in myself. I guess that's the thing that I would say to you all, is that finding somebody who sees something in you that you don't see in yourself is so critically important, to have those mentors and those people along the way. I mean, I started as a social worker, and somebody said, "Do you want to be a supervisor?" I said, "No, thank you." And then next thing I know, I have a packet in my office, and they're just try it, and I did it. Then they're like, "You want to become a manager?" I said, "No, thank you." And next thing I know, I'm in a management position at DCF. Someone said, "You want to be director of training?" I said, "No, thank you." And next thing I know, I found out I'm director of training in an email. And then I reluctantly became deputy commissioner just to help someone out. And then I was asked to be commissioner, and I said, "No, thank you." And here I am again. So I think eventually, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I didn't necessarily see in me the things that other people saw in me. And in social work, this is social work. How many people think you can't make no money in social work, can't be in leadership positions in social work, all you could do is help people? That's what I thought, right? I'm here to tell you, I oversee, I wanted to be a lawyer, but now I oversee a bunch of lawyers. I have doctors reporting to me. I have psychiatrists reporting to me. I oversee a budget that's like $1 billion. I don't even balance my checkbook, but they got me overseeing a budget. That's what you were saying earlier. So there's a lot that you can do in the field of social work. And I want to encourage you all. I want to hear from the rest of the panel, but I just want to encourage you all to think widely about following your passion. I knew that I just wanted to help people, and now I'm in this very powerful position. It's a very powerful position that I get scared of myself, to be honest. But there's so much that I was able to do that I didn't get. So now every time I'm looking in you all's faces and I see me at high school, where I didn't necessarily even dream or think about being in this position that I'm in, and all I want to do is encourage you to be the best you that you can be when you don't get that kind of encouragement. So what I would leave you with is you never know who you can become. And just listen to those who are willing to pour into you, even when you can't see it. And those of you who are lucky enough, or blessed enough, I should say, to have a dream of being something that you want to be, don't let anyone or anything stop you, because that's my journey. I didn't have necessarily the support or the mentors, but guess what? Now that I'm in a position where I am leading in the state, appointed by Governor Ned Lamont to sit in this spot, I'm making sure that I give to young people what I didn't get. And that is the gift of encouragement, the gift of belief. This is a rough world out there. I'd be remiss if I didn't say to you all, as young women, you have to take care of your mental being. Sadness is real. I'm seeing a lot of our young people just really suffering. And that's my job, is to provide mental health services to kids. And a lot of females are out there just really struggling. And I want to encourage you all. In my role, it's really important that I send the message that it's okay to seek help when you are going through something, and for you all to help each other. Lean on one another, check in on one another. That's my job, is to make sure that we have programming around Connecticut to help kids and youth like yourselves. And so I won't belabor. I want to hear from the rest of the group, but that's my journey from Windsor, Connecticut, in 1966 to now Commissioner of the Department of Children and Families in 2025. And I thank you.
Good morning. Is this on? Yes. I'm also old, but not quite that old. No. You have a year on me. So I'm going to start at Stephanie Thomas. I'm the Secretary of the State of Connecticut. Most people have no idea what that means, so I will tell you. Actually, who knows what the Secretary of the State does? Yeah, no one knows. It's not just young people, no one. So that means I was elected. I'm in the executive branch of the government. I am the third ranked in our executive branch, so governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of the state. I am the first black secretary Connecticut has ever had, and I am number 75. So now, and what do? I oversee elections, and I run the business registry. So anyone who starts a business in the state of Connecticut comes through our office. And it's a big job. I had to be elected. About 750,000 people had to vote for me. But good news for you. You're all leaders already because it's only now looking back that I see some of the things I did in middle school and high school, participating in special programs, joining clubs. It's all the exact same skill sets that got me here. But looking backward, I didn't think of myself that way as a leader. School always came very easily to me, and I always wanted to help people, but everything else was a little more complicated. My father was illiterate, so he didn't even know how to read. My mother had dropped out of high school to have my sister. We grew up very, very poor, but thanks to some affordable housing, we lived in a fairly wealthy town, which meant I went to a really good public school. But I distinctly remember there was one whole year we had no electricity, so we kept our food outside. I used to do my homework by candlelight. I was also very, very shy. My entire school career, from kindergarten to high school graduation, I never once raised my hand in class. Yes, I was called on sometimes, and I reluctantly spoke. I had a stutter until I was about 29 years old, and I just kind of never thought of what I would become. My biggest aspiration was to one day make $40,000 a year, which would have made me richer than my parents. I started working when I was 14. But because of this great public school education and because I had good guidance counselors who helped me navigate the process, I got a really great college scholarship to New York University. So I went to college, I got a fellowship to attend graduate school, and it was only then, when I was in graduate school, I started an internship for a small company. They only had 3 employees at the time, but it was in a growth mode. So I worked there for a while, and after about 8 years, I became president of the company. And it eventually grew to have about 25 employees, and then I went on to start my own business. And again, I didn't have a lot of money even then, but being able to start my own business changed all of that. It became successful very quickly, and it was then that I really started to build some confidence, oh, wow, I could do this, I could make a success out of this. I started earning more money than I thought I ever would. And I really enjoyed learning a lot about myself, learning about what I could do, pushing myself. If I could give you one piece of advice, it's push yourself sometimes. People often would ask me to take on something, and in my 20s, I always said no, but by my 30s, I started saying yes. And it's not because I thought I could even do it, but I like challenges. So people would ask me like, hey, sit on this board or chair this board or take part in some special situation. And I started saying yes, and I learned a lot about myself. And I think that is what allowed me to get into elected office. I've only been in government roles for, oh my gosh, 5 years now. My first election, I got into it the way a lot of people do. The person elected as state representative where I live in Norwalk was voting in a way that I didn't like. She didn't seem to support the issues that I supported, and I did what every other single person does, like, how come no one's run against her? How come, like, she's not better? How come she doesn't do this or that? And after complaining for a little while, I was like, hey, maybe I'm the one I'm looking for. I could run for office. I don't know anything about it. I've never followed politics. Like, I voted, but like, I didn't really have that great a passion for it. And I was like, I called up and said, what will it take for me to run for this office? And they told me, and I had to like do a petition and go through some steps. And I lost that first election because I got in late, I didn't know much about it, etc. But then I decided to run again, and I won and became state representative. And then a year later, I heard that the Secretary of the State wasn't going to run again. And I said, oh, that sounds like a job I would love. I'm gonna run for it. And people said I was insane because no one in the state knew who I was. So to win a statewide election, you have to get people all around the state to vote for you. I live in Norwalk. I'd been to Hartford like twice by that point, other than when I was a state representative. I didn't know anything about this area. But I set about doing it like I had done everything else in my life. And this is why I say you're all leaders right now. I was just willing to listen, to learn, and put in the hard work. I put 12,000 miles on my car, driving around the state, introducing myself to many different people, and I had some ideas, and I was no longer shy about sharing those ideas. And I thought, if enough people like my ideas, they'll vote for me and I'll win. And that's exactly what happened, and here I am in this historic role. I never thought of myself as a leader because I think for me, that would make me feel like I was done. And even though I'm in this position and I've had many different leadership roles in my life, I don't feel like I'm done. I don't know what's next, and that's the point. I listen, I step into things, I'm willing to learn about myself and learn from others, and I don't know where else this life will lead me, but you know, maybe something cool is still coming down the pike. But I'm happy to be here, and thank you all for being here.
Good morning, guys. This room got a little bigger. Well, amazing, inspiring stories from all the other panelists. Mine is a little less interesting. I'm Dr. Erin Kravas. I'm the orthopedic surgeon on the panel, so I'm kind of the physician leader on the board, and in the breakout rooms, happy to answer any questions for any of you potential pre-meds in the crowd. I was born in Anchorage, Alaska, and I grew up there and moved back after college for a while, too, so I spent the first 24 years of my life in Alaska. You know, kind of curvy path towards medicine. My father worked on the oil slopes up there, and my mother was a lawyer, so really no physicians or people of any medical background in our family. And I did not think about medicine at all until my senior year of high school. So middle school and the early part of high school, I really loved the arts. I knew I wanted to do something with my hands. I really liked crafting and sewing and music and dance and all the humanities. So I really thought I was going to pursue that in college. And then kind of the final stages of high school, some of my science teachers were encouraging me to go that route. I kind of liked science. I liked physics. I was good at those fields, but they were never really terribly interesting to me. But when I started college, and I went to Hamilton College in upstate New York, which was a very liberal arts, kind of humanities-focused program, I started double majoring in art and then neuroscience. And a lot of my teachers, kind of as things went on and the fields got a little more in depth and interesting, I started thinking, maybe this is something I want to do. So I ended up majoring in neuroscience and minoring in art. And I still love art to this day, and I do a lot of crafting, and I get to sew for work every day, just on people. But when I finished college, I was a little bit late getting into the pre-med crowd, so I did take a year off after college just to get a little bit more clinical experience. Clinical experience is really important when you're applying for medical school. Volunteerism, leadership opportunities, global health, all those things factor in. So I took an extra year just spending some time pursuing those avenues. So I took some leadership roles my senior year of college on the sports teams. I started a little global health chapter at our school and did some global health in Ghana and South Africa. And then the year after I finished college, I applied to medical school and ended up going to University of Washington, which is in Seattle. And I really found nice. And it's a lot of fun. You kind of find your people. So the further along you get, you start just finding the crowd of people, that you just relate to the most. And in med school, I feel like I made some of the best friends that I still have with me today. I thought I wanted to do something with my hands, something kind of procedural, but I never really thought about surgery. I was thinking about maybe anesthesiology or cardiology, something kind of a little more low-key but procedural. And then my third year of medical school, I started thinking more seriously about surgery. But it was pretty daunting. I mean, surgery is very long hours, very competitive. And my field of surgery, which is orthopedics, is very heavily male-dominated. So at the time that I started my training, 14 years ago, it was 94% men, 6% women. And those numbers, we've made a little progress. We're 13% women now, so double what it was. But it was still pretty petrifying. It's a very physically demanding job. You may be reducing hip fractures and hip dislocations on 400-pound patients, and I'm a little person, so you see all these 6-foot-tall, big men doing it, and you think, okay, no problem. But I was lucky enough to find some really amazing mentors. Most of them were men, but extremely supportive. And then at the end of med school, I did a sub-internship at Yale, and there were some other female residents there who were just incredibly inspiring, confident women who taught me to use leverage to do just about anything. And orthopedics is mostly power tools now, so a combination of physics and leverage and strength, and you can accomplish pretty much anything that any man can. So I ultimately went to orthopedic surgery residency at Yale, spent 5 years there, and then I did an extra year of hand and microsurgery in Los Angeles, and then came back to Connecticut a few years ago. So I'm now in private practice, but I still love to teach. So I have faculty positions both at Yale and at Quinnipiac University, and I take a lot of call at the hospitals all around the area, here in Meriden and also at Yale. And so I get to still teach the residents and the medical students and the fellows. And I just love teaching, and it's so encouraging to see all the young female med students and residents that are now coming through and starting to see the potential for themselves in this field. So thank you all for having me, and we'll pass it on to our final panelist.
Well, everyone, these are tough acts to follow. I don't know if that's probably clear from the way they've been speaking just now, but I just wanted to take a moment and say that I am so blessed to be in this room and to be speaking with you right now about my own leadership experience. You all look fabulous. This is like the best dressed group of girls I've ever seen. But I will say, my name is Anvi Bose. I'm currently a junior at Rocky Hill High School. So I'm going through about the same stage of life as you. I'm still trying to figure out what it is exactly in my life that I want to do as a career. And my piece of advice or just guiding theme for what I'm about to say to you is that it's not going to be clear. But if it's always driven by some sort of passion, something that you really, really care about, then I think these opportunities will fall into line for you. So I grew up here in Connecticut. I grew up in Rocky Hill. I've K through 12 there. 11 there. And when I was growing up, my parents had immigrated from India, I want to say only 2 or so years before I was born. My dad left India and my mom came along with him so that he could pursue a higher education. So he went to college. He wasn't at home for the first 6 or 7 years of my life. He was in Illinois. He studied at Northwestern University. And it was just me and my mom for a very long time, just me. And she had her degree out of India, and what she just basically taught me was this idea of independence, and she was her own support system. I was too young to do anything for her, but she has been such a huge influence on the way that I view myself and I view my purpose in this life. My mom taught me the value of education. So from a very young age, I've always been an academic, and you'll see as I keep talking, I just love school. I don't know, I was always in my books. I was a very extroverted kid, so those two things didn't always go together. Those being so young and always wanted to have my head in a book. But I also would always poke my head up out of the book to go talk to people. So from a very young age, there was this lack of reconciliation between these two parts of myself. I was so academic. I loved math. I loved science. My dad, when he came back from college, he would teach me so much, and I would just be at home learning. But when I went to school, I was different. I was so extroverted. I wanted to talk to people. And they might say that I had all these leadership qualities from a really young age because I was just so, confident, and I didn't have that, sense of, oh, I'm kind of scared to do this, I'm kind of scared to do that. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm able to come up here today and share with you guys this experience. But as I grew up, I kind of started to push against academia. I was well, I don't want to be good at math. I was really good at math. I don't want to be good at science. I want to be a singer. I decided from a very young age I wanted to be something in the arts because I was very good at that. My parents put me in piano lessons, in voice lessons. I still sing and play the piano. I play a lot of instruments now. But I thought that those two things couldn't go together, and that was my problem until middle school. I didn't think that there was a path for me where I could pursue all these passions. I could be a singer, and I got into theater, I got into fashion, I like makeup, and I just didn't think that those things went together. And of course that's a legacy from maybe more traditional thought that women can't be both. But as soon as I got into high school, I started taking these advanced placement classes. I was such a try-hard. I'm still a try-hard, and that's never a bad thing. I took my first AP class as a freshman, I self-studied for it, and I ended up getting a 5 on that exam. It was the AP biology exam. So I started thinking, I'm really, I'm pretty good at this. I don't know for why, even in my freshman year, I remember being I don't want to be seen as the girl who's just a nerd. I don't want to be a nerd. I don't want to be just smart or academic because I thought that I couldn't be everything else. And I quickly found that adding all these things to my plate, balancing all these things. I started taking on more AP classes. It was just natural for me to growing up around so much academics to take on all these classes. But I also wanted to do music. I ended up joining the marching band. I'm now the drum major of the marching band, which means I conduct. And I still do that to this day. I played the flute, I play the piccolo, and it's just, I just kept adding things, and I'm still adding things. I'm the captain of our math team at Rocky High School and the science team as well. And there was a purpose that was being fulfilled, like, through all this academics, but I still felt like I had to keep it some sort of secret. Like, I didn't want people to know that I was good at this stuff, and I was good, I am good at this stuff. I wanted people to see me as this sort of, like, perfect, yeah, whatever, I get all these good grades, but I also do this music stuff, and I just kept adding. And it got to a point where I was like, I don't really know what I'm passionate about anymore. I've just been doing all this to, like, put on some sort of performative, look at me, I am so good at everything. And I felt kind of lost for a long time. I really only ended up going out of it when a friend asked me to come to a Cassie IAC leadership conference in my sophomore year, like last year. And he was like, just go and talk about, like, just talk how you talk, because I was always so extroverted, and having perspective in all these different fields really gave me the ability to, like, talk to a lot of different people. So I went there and I was like, wait, I really like this. Like, this is the first time I felt like, okay, it's not my parents telling me I should be good at academics, and even though I was good at it, doesn't mean I really, really loved it. It wasn't myself being like, oh, I wanted to pursue something to look a little bit cooler, to be a little more performative. It was something that I just felt so natural doing. And so since then, I've been really involved in my own community, in my own leadership, and, like, having all of these different skill sets in academics, in music, and in leadership have given me this perspective to be able to give, advice and to try and etch out, like, a pathway for a lot of different types of people, if that makes sense. So now I'm on the Student Equity Advisory Board for, like, Cassie IAC, which we do research on equitable practices throughout Connecticut. And I think that's such a pervasive issue now, and it's the young people, like us, you and me, who have that ability to see it from a first-hand point of view. I walk into school and I see examples of this every single day. And it's not that anyone's eyes are closed to it, it's that their mouths are closed to it. You are all so talented, I know you are because you're here right now, in whatever field it might be. But my purpose here is to tell you that, like, leadership is how you get that passion to really, turn its gears. I still am involved in all, like, the things that I do, but I took it to another level when I was asked to be part of the National Student Advisory Council. So that's, like, if Cassie IAC is the organization that handles all activities for Connecticut, the National Federation of High Schools, that handles it for the national level. And I got an email one day, and they had asked me to be part of this board. 16 people selected from 16 million high schoolers, and I'm not even an athlete. I mean, I ran cross country once, but I just didn't feel like, no, I wasn't very good at cross country, but I just didn't feel like I belonged there because I was more academic. Again, it was this pushback from academia. I felt like my passions just didn't align with it. But when I went there and I decided I was giving my perspective on these issues that pervade high schools right now, and there's a lot of them, you see them with your own eyes, I found that my perspectives in all the things, on all my passions, were so easily aligned with everything that they were talking about. I was easily able to be like, I can see that there's this disconnect between this group of people and this group of people, because I'm part of both. Because I can see that the marching band kids and the kids who are in the math team, they have these similar passions, but for some reason they think they're so divided. And this idea of division is really what's getting us right now in the country and in society. So as, I'm still trying to figure out what it is I want to do in college. I don't know if it's going to be something in medicine because I was good at that first. I don't know if it's something in math or physics because that's what my dad used to teach me. I don't know if I want to keep, singing and doing music in college because that's what I feel like I'm really good at, and that's what makes my, my heart just swell. But I do know that within it, it's going to be my voice and my ability to lead that's going to get me through. That's going to allow me to take on any path I really desire. And for everybody in this room, if you're still thinking about that, if you're thinking like I have all these passions or I have a passion, but I don't know how that's going to intersect with a career, I would encourage you to just get involved, use your voice, because that's the experience that you gain. That's real life experience. That's the stuff that you're going to use when you get out there and you have to get a career. So, like the opportunities I've had to like speak at these events and go on conferences and be in part of these boards, that has nothing to do with my like initial passions, but what it ends up being is an amplifying factor. Whatever passions you have are going to be kind of like put into this megaphone and dispersed if you're able to join stuff like this. So yeah, that's my message is please get involved, please use your voices, and use each other as your supports. I know it's hard, school is so difficult. I'm a junior, I'm finishing up my junior year. It was rough. And it was because of this strong support system I'd built with my parents, with my grandparents, with the women in my life, like my friends, that I've just been able to flourish like this. And so, this room of people that you're in, people that you probably don't know, if you're not sitting with your friends, you don't know them, network and get to know them. And that's going to be your, shield from the very difficult things that come along with this path and trying to figure out what you really want to do as a person. So thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for those lovely background stories. They're all very inspirational. I'd now like to take this time to open up the floor to any questions that you guys might have. So there are 2 mic stands at the ends of each rows, and if you would like to get up and ask our lovely panelists a question, now is the time to do so.
Don't be shy.
So you have a panel of all these amazing women with all these amazing backgrounds. This is your time to get up. You'll have time later as well in some of the breakout sessions, but not everyone will be there. So don't be shy. We're here to support you. Now is the time to ask any question that you would like. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Phoebe McCartney, and I'm from New Fairfield High School. Hi, guys. I have a question for Dr. Kravis. Is that your name?
Yes,
Okay.
good pronunciation.
Okay, thank you. I know that you went to medical school, and I know that a lot of the girls that I'm with today are looking into pre-med, because I overheard them. But I'm looking into veterinary school. I was wondering if you have any background with that. I know that you're going on like humans and stuff, but do you know how to stand out in applications to show that you should be selected out of other people too, And how do you resemble yourself in a field that is mainly like a lot of men that are like, we're better than you guys? How do you show that you are good at what you do and that you should be chosen out of all of these people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure you know some of the stats since you're looking at veterinary school. I spent a year, in my senior year, I did a little couple-month internship with a vet, and then realized that I wanted to talk to people. So I got to switch to human medicine. But vet school is actually more competitive than medical school, as you probably know. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough road. It's very competitive. Obviously, good grades in the sciences and physics and math are all important, but guess what? All the other applicants are going to have good grades in those fields too. So that's one component of things, but I would say, kind of like a lot of the panelists have mentioned today, find something you're passionate about. It's even better if that's something that's not academic. Get it like a weird hobby, because when you're interviewing, people will not remember your SAT score, but they will remember if you play the bassoon on a pogo stick or something. People remember that stuff. So find something that is interesting and kind of weird, whether it's like a hobby or an instrument or, you know, participate in a Guinness Book of World Records event. do something that's interesting that you can talk about at length. And when people see that passion, it makes you memorable. And, you know, speak up. Like you're doing today. Thank you for standing up and asking the first question. But when you can speak with confidence at an interview and represent yourself without self-doubt, people remember that too. So that would probably be my best advice. And, you know, develop good study habits, obviously. Take your science classes, but don't ignore all the other stuff.
Thank you.
I have a question for the junior. Hi, I'm Riley. I'm from Portland. What would you say is your biggest struggle, like to achieve what you have achieved?
Oh, that's a really good question. And it's probably not obvious from when you look at me, but I have a lot of anxiety. Like my dad has ADHD, and I never got it diagnosed or anything, but I am a very restless and a very anxious person. Like there's a lot of things going on in my head at once. Like when it comes to, like, that's the reason I have so many passions in the first place, is because my brain is always going, you know. So to find a time to like sit down and like achieve when it comes to taking all these AP classes, the hardest thing has been like my mental health. It gets really tough, and I know you guys know this. Like it just gets tough to like keep doing the same thing routinely. You know, at the beginning of the year, you have all these AP classes, it's like, you know, whatever. But at some point, it just starts feeling like more of the same. And to break myself out of that cycle, it feels like a little repetitive, it feels a little hopeless. Like, when is this ever gonna, am I ever gonna get anything out of this? Am I just doing this because I want a better GPA, or what is this really leading me up to? And to fall back on a support system has really helped me with that. Like my friends like are all of the, you know, same academic caliber. Like we're involved in the same things. We all have the same like sort of extracurricular activities. So to be able to talk to them and to be able to, you know, lean on each other for that type of support and say, hey, I feel this way. What have you done, like, to help your mental, to help yourself deal with this like kind of struggle that feels like you never get out of it, because it's kind of perpetual. Like if you're always going to be achieving, there's always going to be this risk of burnout, and I faced it so many times, and every time it kind of just feels like, wow, when is this going to end? So to be able to talk to people and say, hey, I've gotten out of this. Hey, I did the same thing as you 3 years ago when I was a sophomore. Like I've talked to people like that, and they've been like, yeah, it gets better. It gets better, and it always comes to fruition. And to have that little bit of hope, to have those support systems to fall on, that's how I deal with my biggest struggle, which is my mental health.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. I have a question on how do you build your resume to be one of the like top chosen people? And that's like a question for like all the panelists. So like, yeah, how do you like build your resume to be chosen as like a prime choice to be chosen for like these high positions, these like leadership roles? Yeah.
Who wants to take that? I'll start. I always encourage people not to think of it as building your resume. Like, depending on what you're trying to do, you have to take the classes, get the grades, like in whatever you're trying to do. But we often ignore that there are so many things in life that prove to schools and employers consistency. So I've always been a hard worker, but like sometimes it was my after-school job where I became an assistant manager. Sometimes it was playing JV or varsity volleyball. Sometimes it was volunteering at my local hospital. So all of those types of experiences, like you were just saying, like it's not always about school and grades. Like you want to be a whole person, because no matter what you're applying for, everyone else is going to have the same school and grades. So it's like, what makes you different? What have you consistently shown during like the rest of your activities? So I just encourage you to figure out what you love, what you like to do, and do a lot of that as well. I speak for everyone, I guess.
Yes, you do.
Hi, so I just wanted to ask, what's one message that you would tell your younger self that like everything's gonna be okay, or like to encourage them to do better, like more specifically for the people that were struggling a little bit growing up? What would you tell them to encourage them to do better in high school so that you would have better opportunities to basically do better in the future? Kind of like.
I would like, go ahead.
You want to go? Go ahead. Go for it. Okay. You know, about 6 months ago, I went to my 40th high school reunion, right? And so I'm sitting at the table with the valedictorian of the class, and he's a very successful lawyer, right? And we're talking and everything, and I remember always looking up to that person saying, oh my God, I could never be that smart. Oh my God. I just always admiring them because I felt more inferior. And the guy turns to me and he says, you know, I'm thinking about going back to school to get my social work degree. And it was just an amazing moment for me to see somebody that I looked up to really wanting to return to do the things that I'm doing. So what I would say to my high school self is, what you're going through now is not what it's going to be in the future. And that you have purpose, and if you just hold on to just being yourself, everything is going to be better than okay.
And is this on? Oh. For me, I was expelled from middle school. So to be a principal and to be in education is kind of like an oxymoron. So one thing that I would tell myself as a young lady would be, love yourself, Annabelle. Believe in yourself, Annabelle. And grow from those mistakes and grow from that learning. And don't beat yourself up, because I did that a lot. In the community, in the classroom, whenever I felt worthless, I beat it myself up, you know. And even when I was getting my doctoral degree, to be honest, ladies, like I sat there as a teacher, and I am in a cohort with superintendents, assistant superintendents, members of the cabinet, and here I am, a little, you know, art teacher with all of these people that have, you know, these titles. And I'm there and I'm thinking like, oh my God, why am I even here? Am I even capable of doing this work? So not until in my 30s, there was so much self-doubt that I felt like I robbed myself from so many opportunities, from that mindset. And if I had to go back, not even 10 years ago, 15 years, because I'm 46, I would tell myself, stop it. Stop it. And just embrace it all. The failures, the struggles, the challenges, grow from it, and pick yourself up, Annabelle, and keep pushing forward. And don't dwell on it. I believe that the battlefield is in your mind. Everything is in your mind. And if I had an opportunity to, again, go back and tell myself to change that mindset, I would, and things would have been so much easier for me. You know, so be kind to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirrors, ladies, and tell yourselves, I love myself. I am capable. I am valuable. I am worthy.
Hi, my name is Jihan Kaba. I'm with Benny Dover. For the two educators on the panel, what has been your biggest challenges as a leader and how do you tackle them?
What has been your, can you repeat?
What has been your biggest challenges as a leader and how do you tackle them?
Our biggest challenge.
I can start. My biggest challenge is, I always say, as a school leader, it's not the kids, believe it or not. The biggest challenge is the adults. Sorry for all the teachers in the room and all the educators. Not in a bad way, but, you know, students can be molded, and you guys have your whole life ahead of you. Your minds are so green to grow. As adults, we're set in our ways, and sometimes change is not easy for everyone. And so when new initiatives and new things come along, it's very difficult, right, to get the buy-in. Also, you know, making decisions for the well-being of children versus making decisions for adults has been challenging, and balancing that. Because you want to make an environment conducive to teaching and to working, right? But it has to be what fits for the students. And sometimes there can be crossroads with that. But, yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, for me, it's following a predecessor that has been loved by popularity and not necessarily the work. So when you come in as a female in a predominant male, leadership roles where males dominate the role, right? Principalships and teachers are predominantly females. You come in and there's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of like, who is she, right? A lot of people mistake passion for emotion, and sometimes females get labeled as, oh, she's too emotional, you know, or, you know, she's not making decisions based on facts, or, you know, things of that nature. So that has been very challenging for me in my experience. Is how do I change a culture where I stand as a minority? And I feel like even though with a doctoral degree and all of these certifications, I still have to prove myself. And that's fine, like I'll prove myself, right? But at the end of the day, my moral compass is all about the kids. And whenever I am most challenged, no one can ever argue with a decision that I've made, because it is always for the kids. Always, never for the adults. And I will support my teachers and I will support the adults in the building, but at the end of the day, I chose to be in this role because I want to make a change for kids, systemically for kids.
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you to all of our lovely panelists. I'm going to now turn it back over to Chisere, who will continue this with all of you. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you again to our wonderful panelists and to all the students for all your great questions. Sorry we had to cut them short, but you will have plenty of time to ask questions in the breakout sessions, where I will dismiss you to shortly. So again, I'll thank the panelists. Please stay on for like 1 minute. We just want to grab a quick picture, and Kruti has something to give to you just for a special thank you. So we really appreciate you being here this morning. One more hand for our panelists. All right. Okay, so crew T, you can come on down. And so as we wait a minute, you all will be going to your breakout session shortly. So I think we have some Berlin High School helpers to help us out today. All right, so we're going to start with dismissing everyone to the multi-purpose room. So whoever is the guide for the multi-purpose room,